This is another story from Beasts, Men and Gods, featuring the Tushegoun Lama, a man of great power. We left the city from the eastern side and passed along by the camp of the Mongolians, who had been reduced to beggary by the Chinese impositions. There also they were evidently anxiously awaiting the turn of events, for in spite of the lateness of the hour none had gone to sleep. We slipped out on the ice and worked around by the river to the Nagan. As we passed free of the city, we began to sneak cautiously along, taking advantage of every bit of cover. Fortunately, there were many heaps of frozen manure on the plain, which we made use of as cover to lead us right up to our objective point, the fence of the enclosure. In the shadow of this, we slunk along to the courtyard where the voices of the excited crowd beckoned us. As we took good vantage points in the darkness for listening and making observations, we remarked two extraordinary things in our immediate neighborhood. Another invisible guest was present with us at the Chinese gathering. He lay on the ground with his head in a hole dug by the dogs under the fence. He was perfectly still, and evidently had not heard our advance. Nearby in a ditch lay a white horse with his nose muzzled, and a little further away stood another saddled horse tied to a fence. In the courtyard there was a great hubbub. About 2,000 men were shouting, arguing and flourishing their arms about in wild gesticulations. Nearly all were armed with rifles, revolvers, swords and axes. In among the crowd circulated the gamins, constantly talking, handing out papers, explaining and assuring. Finally, a big, broad-shouldered Chinese mounted the well, waving his rifle about over his head, and opened a tirade in strong, sharp tones. "He is assuring the people," said our interpreter, "also to remain here while he goes to the Chinese commissioner." He jumped down from the well and quickly made his way to the gate towards the town. At once I saw the man who was lying with his head under the fence draw back out of his hole, take his white horse from the ditch, and then run over to untie the other horse, and lead them both back to our side, which was away from the city. He left the second horse there, and hid himself around the corner of the hushun. The spokesman went out of the gate, and seeing his horse on the other side of the enclosure, slung his rifle across his back, and started for his mount. He had gone about halfway when the stranger behind the corner of the fence suddenly galloped out, and in a flash literally swung the man clear from the ground up across the pommel of his saddle, where we saw him tie the mouth of the semi-strangled Chinese with a cloth and dash off with him towards the west away from the town. "Who do you suppose he is?" I asked of my friend, who answered up at once, "It must be Tushegoun Lama." His whole appearance did strongly remind me of this mysterious Lama Avenger, and his manner of addressing himself to his enemy was a strict replica of that of Tushegoun. A warrior, a leader, a man of many miracles. I like the Tushegoun Lama. He is a man who can do many things, just like Gurdjieff was a man who could do many things. Gurdjieff's father had educated him in a certain way. His dad had lost a couple of businesses and had to change career. I guess it was painful for him, and he wanted his son, George Ivanovich, he wanted him to be flexible. So when he was teaching the boy how to live, he kept changing his work, getting him to work on many different things. And Gurdjieff became an expert into going into new situations. and working out what to do, going into the unknown. And the spiritual path is unknown. It is unknown, and the few people who walk it, I don't know why they walk it. It's only for few, really. I was listening to this guy on YouTube. He was one of these spiritual teachers, claimed to be a student of Ouspensky, and he had very beautifully polished YouTube videos and a very beautifully manicured grey beard, white shirt, and a vase of flowers. The symbols of success if you're a guru, I guess. And he was talking, about the usual things we've all heard, that nothing is real, and all these identifications. The body, your race, your gender, your name, your family, it all means nothing. And he had this look in his face of somebody who was really dumb. My teacher says that all the intelligent people are busy working, and on this planet spirituality has been left to the dummies. And that's why it's in such a bad state that it is. I mean, really, how much does it cost you to sit up on a podium and tell people that nothing means nothing? Is that it? If that's it, say it and be gone. Get lost, for God's sake. Spirituality is supposed to be aiming high. But how can such a low inspiration mean anything to God? There are others who want to go to heaven or retire or win the lottery. They want to be whiter than white. They want to live in a place where they don't get hurt, where nothing unexpected occurs. And then they can be peaceful. They can rest quietly, and all their thoughts and feelings will disappear. All the discomfort of the world will disappear, and they'll be at peace. Well, you'll be at peace like that when you're dead, won't you? What kind of a vision are these things of spirituality? Where is the value in them? How can God smile at somebody who's hiding away like that? Is that it? I was sitting in this Buddhist gardens this week in Brighton. It was very peaceful and it was very sunny. There were a pair of magpies and a pair of pigeons frolicking about, relaxing. And everything was just fine. I was sitting there and everything was just fine. I could think beautiful thoughts and I could think evil thoughts and everything was just fine. Nobody was breathing down my neck. Nobody was coming to get me. I can do whatever I want, more or less. And the clouds roll by overhead. It's as if there aren't any consequences. But maybe the consequences are concealed. And maybe the heavens are watching you and giving you enough rope to hang yourself. And life goes on. People walk along the street. They live and they die. If there are secrets to be found, then they are certainly secret, because these people don't know anything. I was listening to another so-called teacher, and he was trying to explain self-remembering. And he said, here I am, and I'm aware of my body, I'm aware of the room, I'm aware of the breathing, I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that. That's self-remembering. Apparently, that's what he said. That is not self-remembering. That's just using the hunting mind. The same hunting mind as a squirrel has. When a squirrel is in the garden and it's staring at a tree or a cat, what faculty is it using? It's using the hunting mind. It's a kind of intelligence that revolves around the perception of objects in the environment. We all have that, all animals have that. And, if you focus on it, you can be aware of the walls and the space in the room and so on. That's not self-remembering. That's what animals do. If you want to be an expert at observation, you're never going to be the animals. The animals are very good. They're very aware. Self-remembering has to do with the subject experiencing itself. So first of all, you have to let go of the objects and then develop a relationship from subject to subject. Okay? It's a different kind of interaction of a much more intimate type. Some people say it's a oneness. It's not really a oneness because there's still a flow. If there's a recognition, then there has to be movement. Right? But the recognition that goes from subject to object into the world is very coarse. It's like a long circuit that goes into the manifested world. So your energy is flowing from the subject into the objects in the world. So you're actually recognizing things with the help of this external environment. Self-remembering refers to recognition without the environment. So it goes from subject to subject through the source. It's much more intimate. I was just having a look at the index of Beelzebub's Tales. Gurdjieff has some great chapter titles there. One of them is The First Growl. Another one is The Beginning of Perspectives Promising Nothing Very Cheerful. Now you see, Gurdjieff, he explored life. He had become a master at many different areas of life. He enjoyed going into new places and learning from his fingertips. He was very competent at going into the unknown, you see. And the spiritual path is all unknown. And so it requires a certain kind of person to learn how to see in the dark. Not everybody can do it. And that shows once again the interaction between your learning in the world and your ability on the spiritual path. You must learn in the world first. Only then are you ready to enter the dark gates of the unknown. Only then would you be able to do it. Now, if I go back to those two spiritual teachers that I mentioned, I don't want to single anybody out.